911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send additional
Protesters are
trucks.
outside of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out
orders
on 1.
to
Hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I am your co-host, Gary, and today we are joined by a very special guest. Ted Bourgeois is the Director of Education at American Emergency Preparedness, an online academy designed to help increase knowledge and skill sets of 911 operators and police dispatchers. Ted also has spent more than 40 years in the emergency field. He is an APCO-certified instructor in call taking and certified training officer. And today, Ted will be joining us to discuss stress reduction strategies in first responders of call takers and dispatchers. Ted, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. I think we all know that it's a high-stress job to take 911 calls or dispatch police officers. What are some of the signs that we're kind of getting to our boiling point with that?
There's a lot of signs. So because everybody's a little different, and when everyone knows we're all built with this amazing physiological machine, right? So when the hair goes up on our neck and a little bit, we know that there's an issue, right? So some people, maybe you're short with your wife, or you're short on the floor. Maybe you're a little more animated than you usually are. Maybe it's real physical. Maybe you are starting to sweat or get a little tunnel vision, or you are starting to kind of heat up because your body heats up and it's getting ready for fight or flight. What ends up happening is, in that frame of mind and in that physical place that you're in right there, it's really, there are very few more unhealthy events to be doing because your body's preparing for action, which it's not going to do. Only action is what you're going to do with dispatching or what aggravation you're dealing with right now. Really, it can get really scary very quickly, especially if people are not managing this elevated presence, these symptoms. And they go across the board. And like I said, everybody's a little different.
I'm a little, I don't know if bias is really the right word, but I have a little bit of an advantage. I'm aware of a particular class, course, workshop that AEP offers, and it's called the Hero's Choice. And I've been fortunate enough to go through the program myself. So I know that there's a little more to it than just the negative that we are all accustomed to hearing about stress. You have a little different take on it.
Yeah, I do. So just a little bit about my background. So, we're a company that's made up of dispatchers. So we use that knowledge, and we take advantage of it, and it really puts us in a place. Like, I've been behind the 11 screens, so I know what people are talking about when they say this is irritating or this gets me mad. And a lot of this, when we talk about the hero's choice, it really came from an incident that probably pretty much ended my career, to be perfectly honest. A child death that I went through this, and it was powerful, and it really set me on a course of learning how to deal with it. And what I found out, so I've gone to, a degree in criminal justice, degree in psychology. I've done some counseling, I've done some stuff. And what I found out is this word that we use, stress, is really interesting. Okay, as symptomology, I have no problem with it. But a lot of people, and by a lot of people, me, would say, starting out, I always thought about stress as this, it kind of took the heat off of me. If I said it was under stress, it kind of took the volume off. So to me, I really don't like the word. I think it's a crutch. I think it's something that we use way too often as an excuse for being ill prepared, for being present in the moment and being able to deal with being professional and present in the moment and being able to deal with what's coming at you. So at our core, what are we in emergency management? We're problem solvers, right? We
Hmm.
are people who something hits us in the face and we solve that problem, especially dispatchers, go get me a tow truck, get me a backhoe, get me whatever. That's what we do. Notify so and so, notify so and so. We're doing that all day long. And when you do that at a very high level, when you're really professional, when you're really good at your job, your stress level goes way down because these are just challenges and problems to solve. So when I wrote The Hero's Choice, I was going through this terrible thing, which I found during this event. I was in the military and I've been through life, so the doctor syndrome, and you've given me this label. What happens now? And then talking to my son who's a clinician and my daughter-in-law who's a clinician, and working through this event that I was working through, this Hero's Choice and this stress reduction strategies really bloomed. And I figured
Hmm.
out a couple of things that the industry themselves, they don't use this. So if I'm talking to my professor and I say, yeah, I don't think stress is I think it's a dirty word. And he'll
Hmm.
look at me and go, well, that's not how this works. And I said, well, that's how I work. I'm a problem solver. So for me, I had to be really honest with myself. I had to be ethical.
Hmm.
Doing that, I gained some resilience. I had to work on my organizational culture to make sure that my organization was working in the same way, trying to promote health, not just putting band-aids on. Okay, you're stressed out here, take an emergency personal day and take that day off. Well, what are we fixing? Am I making you a better problem solver, or am I giving you a crutch because you've labeled yourself with stress?
No, that's a really interesting point because so many times we're like, "Hey, take a day off. You had a hard call," but that's not really addressing the issue because it's
Not
like if somebody's an alcoholic, you're like, you're out of alcohol. Here's a bottle of whiskey. Feel better."
exactly.
Like it's
It's
this.
literally exactly that's. I am stealing the crap out of that, Gary. I'll tell you that
Please
right
do.
now. I'm writing that down. It's
Yeah, but
that's
yeah,
really good.
yeah, because it's not addressing any of like what caused it. We're just treating the symptoms and not the disease at that point.
Correct. Which is what we do, right? We do that medically anyways, right? So if I have heart disease, they give me a pill. Well, I know if I have heart disease, exercise, eating right is more proactive than taking a pill.
Hmm.
So I know with stress, especially on that floor. So we're on that floor and it's banging and it's going. If I'm a good dispatcher, this becomes fun. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So true.
you guys have been through it, right? So you know what I'm talking about. When you're on the radio and there's 40 officers working doing 30 different things, it is a video game. It's a blast. As long
Hmm.
as
Yeah.
nobody gets hurt. But
Yeah.
I'm enjoying myself for the most part, especially on the fire side where it can get really, really complicated and you're like, this is Tuesday. I'm good at this. I've prepared for this, and now I'm just going to go kick it out of the park. You know what I mean? It's 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 an interesting mindset when you say, "Hey, I'm stressed out. I'm in a failure position. I'll get the crutch under my arm." Or is this a challenge? And I'm going to focus, get the skills, and I'm going to get the confidence to move forward. And now I'm resilient. Now I can get my butt kicked, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's just going to be a bad day. And I think we need to rethink how we look at this and rethink how we look at basically mental health and physical health and how they are absolutely dovetailed together and how we have to move forward. It's okay to innovate something, it's okay for a new idea to work. If we stick to here's your stressed out day, here's your crutch, take your day off, there's no mitigation, there's no improvement. There is just a day off for them to ruminate over what they're doing. So, what are the right steps? What should that person be doing? That's what we should be implementing, not kind of going down the old road where let's just let them shake it off. Okay, shake it off. But if it happens all the time, in that physically this is their habits, this is what they are, they're not going to shake it off. It's actually the volume's going to go up on their anxiety and depression.
Wow. That is so, and as you were talking about this, I'm thinking to myself, you're 100% right. So, what we tend to do is, like Gary said, and you said, we have the bad day, we have the stressed out call, we say, go home. And as supervisors, we will call them a little bit later. Hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Yeah, you
Check in,
okay? All
yeah,
right. Basically, but that's the only tool we're given. We're not given any other tool or any other way to help address the root problem. So
right,
why did the call stress you? Because when you think about it, that's Tuesday or Thursday or even Monday for us. So now what happens when Wednesday comes around and you have the same type of call?
right,
And you will have another call like it or
right.
several more like it. So I think when we are going through these academies or when we're beginning this process of learning this work or coming into this profession, no one talks to us about mitigating stress or what it really is, how it impacts us, and what to do when it begins to get the best of us, or even challenges our thinking on what it might be, which is why the hero's choice was so impactful, even for me, because I found myself later telling colleagues and coworkers, when that adrenaline hit you, this is really what was happening.
Exactly. I didn't know, you know, I'm a positive person, so I'm always going to be encouraging and I got your back on the floor and all of those things, but I didn't have a real knowledge of the physiology, and I still don't. I probably 25 cents on the dollar, really. I mean, I should continue on with this, but I don't have Erica's money, so I can't afford it right now. But it's, it's a matter of, it's just education. So a library is about $25 a year to go into a library, take a book out and read about the physiology of what stress is. I mean, a ton of hormones dump, a ton of them do during this, and they stay there, they stew while you're sitting in this, while you're sitting in your cubicle, while you're at your station. All they're doing is just stewing around, they're just boiling in your body. And the big ticket ones, the ones that are doing damage to you, the only way to get rid of them is to exercise and to move. That's why officers on the road, firemen on the road, people on the road actually have a much healthier stress reaction because they're doing it well and they're physically burning these chemicals off, these hormones off. We're just sitting there. I mean, both of us, I can tell you right now, I mean, I've definitely sat for 12 to 16 hours, not got up for anything other than food or to go to the bathroom.
Hmm.
That you can't have a more unhealthier environment to work. And now you have all these challenges coming at you, or you have the noise of the floor. And the noise, when I talk about noise, I'm talking about your coworkers, management. Even as all of us were part of management, it still is noise. And it's this tension of problems that are unsolved. So that stuff hangs on you and it raises the volume of your anxiety. It raises the volume of this stuff. So now your body is fighting all of this stuff. It doesn't know how to do it because we don't know about it. We haven't created a mindset of challenge as opposed to excuse and stress. Once you create this mindset, that noise goes down. You know it is what it is. It's one of these problems that I can't solve. I'm putting it into a category 1 through 10, and I can't get to 8 until, maybe tomorrow. But I've already created problem solving methodology where I just work. And then you get your butt kicked some days. Some days are more, there's more challenges and less challenges. We both know that. We all three of us know that. But now it's a different thing because I'm managing this stuff professionally. Somebody in a TED talk told me something. They spoke about, handling things professionally as opposed to personally. And when we're at work, we're supposed to be professionals. It shouldn't be this personal butt hurt frame of mind.
Hmm.
I think sometimes in society, we're built for that. It's easier to have that butthurt frame of mind. And well, if you're
Okay.
there, you're not a problem solver. Challenge comes, it's just going to come and kick your butt in. And so how do you move forward? How do you get strong in that mindset? It's very difficult. And the hero's choice for us, when we built it, it basically came from my journaling, me going through that call and finding out about some of the mental health issues I had. And that's where it really came from. And then I went and researched it with my son to find peer-reviewed research that actually backs it up. And what we couldn't find, ended up sending out our own research and doing surveys of our own to the 911 industry to say, hey, are you feeling this way? And then so this class was built on all of that. And it's something we're proud of, only because the whole goal of this class is to make a healthier person that's working in the emergency management system, whether police officer, fireman, dispatcher. Well, it really goes for everything. It goes for life. It goes to a nurse. It goes to a school teacher. It goes to a mom, a dad. How are you looking at this 3-year-old who's screaming back at you right now? Are you taking it personally, mom, dad? Or are you taking it kind of professionally and saying, hey, I'm the mom, I'm the dad? The kid finish up and then teach the kid the right way to deal with the challenge that they're dealing with. It crosses over to everything. Like I said, we're very proud of this class, and it's a live class. We teach a lot, get out, and we want people to talk to each other and know that there's more than you out there going through this, and how can we change that mindset?
The whole idea, I have an advantage of over anyone else who's listening that has not has never come up against the hero's choice. So I think the question, or maybe if I'm going to try to play devil's advocate, if you will, I'm not hearing a magic pill for the stress that we face in our centers, because let's be honest, we all think stress and we hear stress reduction, we hear coping strategies, we hear all those buzzwords, catchphrases for dealing with it, and we're all looking for the magic pill or the formula or the prescription. Ted, where's my prescription for dealing with the stress in my center?
Your confidence to task. So if you're confident in your job, you're confident with the skills that you have, your stress level goes way down, way down. So people they want the easy answer, right? They want, here's that Zoloft, here's that Valium, here's that thing. And don't get me wrong, there are people who need to take the edge off, but there's better ways to take that edge off, right? So for us, as this group of people across the nation, they're looking for the easy way out too. But the easy way out is be be the best dispatcher you can be. So if it's busy, I'm not stressed. What stresses me at work, or what raises my aggravation, is ignorance. When somebody looks at me and says, hey, I'm all stressed out for this, I bluntly say, do you know what you're doing yet? We've been through our training program. We've backed you up, but you're putting no effort into learning and moving forward. I'm going to call you out on that. Because now you're saying that your stress is affecting my body, but you're not prepared to take your day on. You're not prepared. You showed up late. You were ill prepared, and you're not good. You're not ready to do this job. You're not ready for the challenges. And now you're telling me you're stressed out. That's on you. That's a personal choice that you've made to be ill prepared. We have a saying at AAP. It's a saying that I wrote it. It actually was during this time, going through that distress, that repetition builds skill. That you get this skill, and you build it, and you build it over time, and you continually get stronger. So I'm 60 years old, so I've been through a couple of days in my life, right? So you start to learn that this problem is not that big a problem. I know how to solve it because I've done the work. I've built the skill through repetition, and now I'm confident. And now when I'm confident to task, which is a saying I use, you are confident to task. Where's the stress? Where is it? You might have some of the noise. You might. But even then, you know how to deal with that, right? You have a simple, this is the problem. This is how I solve it. I move on to the next task because I'm confident. That's resilience
Okay.
because now I can get my butt kicked. And I just move on through the tasks. I just move through this malaise of craziness that we work in. I just do task one, task two, task three. I'm having a problem with the relationship. It's still the same nuts and bolts in theory to say, hey, if I'm good at this relationship, I've open communication and I'm honest. Well, now, whatever that problem is, we're just going to kind of work it out because we can both talk in a safe place where it's respectful conversation. It's interesting when we think of that quick pill, and you triggered me on that one because it's one of my favorite things to say. What pill solves the problem in life? Your body is what
None that
solves
I
your
can
problem.
think of. Yeah.
Yeah, your body
Cyanide.
does, right? So, all the answers to the questions you carry around with you all the time is just whether you want to do the work to be prepared and be ready for that, or you don't. And it's an interesting conversation with people who don't want to do it or they're really negative. It's a much harder thing to move forward. I mean, we found out we just have a ton of peer reviewed research that just came out about the number one cure for depression and mental illness. It's
Is it?
exercise.
Mm.
It's not a pill. It's not counseling. It's not anything. It's getting up and walking and contracting your muscles. Because we know during this muscle contraction, the body releases even more amazing hormones. They're called hope molecules. They go right to you and start fixing you. We don't do this because that's not kind of what we're taught. We're taught to, let's just deal with this stress thing. No, let me give a pill. And don't get me wrong. I get it. Medication works for people. I get it. Let's get it to be you have the human answer right here. You have to decide to make the choice to move forward. No doctor is going to be holding your hand as you're walking down the street. You need to get up and walk down the street and get some exercise. Move to be confident in your tasks. It's life changing when you decide to do the work. You know what I mean? Well, how do these high functioning, highly successful people do what they're doing? How do they work 22 hours a day? They're ready to do it. They're ready to do it. And the people who are not, they get mad at them. All those rich people, what did they do? They have busted their butts to get where they are, right? It's an interesting conversation. But the answer to your question is that confidence in task. And confidence to me is a real big word because I think it dictates your health, whether it's mentally or physically. I think if you're confident to task, you're going to be able to handle all these things that come at you, even the really bad days. We've all been through them, family tragedies, all of those things. You're confident, you're dealing with what's in front of you, you're present with yourself first. I love that conversation. Be present in your environment. Don't worry about your environment. Present with you. Then you can decide what's the problem, what I'm going to do, how am I going to affect change, how am I going to be good at this. It's once you get that mindset, even when it's bad, it's still good because you're learning what not to do and you're moving forward.
So what you're saying is, if somebody takes like a difficult call or goes through that, the a better answer than say, "Hey, go home. Here's your administrative leave time." A better answer might be, "Hey, why don't you hit the gym for 30 minutes and see if you feel better?"
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, Gary, to expound on that, so they get back to the gym and we play back the call, there's a couple of bumps in the call, right? Something
Hmm.
wasn't perfect. And we work through it and say, what did you do well? What did you do poorly? Let's close the call. Let's get closure in our mind that we did a really good job, especially if we did a really good job. So we all
Wow.
know that, even for my child call, I did everything right.
Hmm.
We killed it as a center. We did a good job, and that child still died. It's going to happen. So we have to bank on a task and doing it really well. So absolutely, I would say go for a walk for 10 or 15 minutes. back and let's review this call and let's get stronger now.
Mm-hmm.
This was the challenge,
That's
and let's
amazing.
get stronger.
My
Sure.
brain is going a mile a minute, and I was thinking it kind of where Gary was going with it because I'm imagining this employee in my head who has taken this awful call. And what we tend to do is we feel restricted as supervisors in what we can say because we don't want to overstep. I don't want to be responsible for saying, okay, you just took this horrible call. You appear to be mentally and emotionally stressed out. Let's just use the word because that's what we
Sure.
call it. And we
Yeah, well,
start
it's
thinking,
a
oh,
symptom. So I'm fine with the word. It's just not a corrective word.
okay. So for me as the supervisor, I'm like, all right, you took this horrible call, you're stressed out, you're emotionally spent, and I don't know what to do for you. The last thing I would think about is asking them, okay, what was horrible about the call aside from the obvious? Okay, the child died. That part's horrible. But
Horrible.
what else is has got you stressed? Because what we do is we send them home to stew on not just the call, but what their actions were or may not have been in
Exactly.
that call. So when you say,
Exactly.
let's get closure on the call, maybe
Correct.
it wouldn't be the worst idea to say, okay, let's talk about it. If you still want your
Absolutely.
mental health day, by all means, but
Absolutely great. That's what it's built for.
let's talk first. Okay.
Yep.
Hmm.
And you don't have to be a
Especially our
counselor because
especially
now
our
you're talking.
newbies.
Absolutely, because they haven't leathered up yet. They haven't. They're not. We have to build through these tasks, right? So we go through this bad call. Hey, take a break. I want you to go for a walk. I don't want you just sitting around. I want you to move a little bit, okay? Get some blood flowing. I want you to feel better. Come back. Let's QC this call and let's work it, okay? How do if there's a bunch of failures like somebody really crashed and burned, that's a much more difficult conversation because now maybe this person died because of your actions. Well, now that's a really hard conversation, right? But the
Yeah.
conversation doesn't change. What's first? What did you do well first? What did you do well second? Okay, so you handled this perfectly. It's just a bad day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's going to be bad days even through our perfection. In our active shooter class, people will say, that horror of that call. Well, the trouble is if we don't get professional and confident, that oh shit moment in the beginning of the call, that delay of action, that delay to task, that gets longer and longer and longer as your stress goes up because you're not handling the call correctly.
Hmm.
So that's why we have these conversations afterwards to make sure you know your lane, know your role. If you don't have some of that skill, well, now that identifies that for me as a training coordinator or as a supervisor. I gotta work with this person a little bit more and gain a little more skill. Okay, so these are all these failure points that we do find. They're not failure points. This is now something we stand on and we teach and we lead and we give that good example. And now we're giving them this confidence to just move through these tasks as opposed to, hey, take the day off. It doesn't work because it's not proactive. You're not moving towards what the crux of this problem is. So at AP, the things that I've learned in my life is if you do not go to the where the tire hits the road and find out where the problem is. So we're really good at the Monday morning quarterback and the blame game and emergency management. I love it. It's a lot of fun. When captain comes in who knows nothing about what you're talking about, so say you screwed up, you go, I didn't. We did it perfectly. You know what I mean? It's the reason I love everything being recorded. I don't want anything unrecorded on an emergency management call because it covers us. It makes the other person see that. But if they go to the emotional reaction of a police officer or on a dispatcher, well, I don't do that. I don't care about his emotional reaction. I'm going to say, what's the crux to this problem that you're dealing with? Okay, if it's on us, we're going to fix it. If it's not on us, well, then I'm not going to fix that. That's on you. And you're using an
Mm-hmm.
emotional competition. I'm not. I'm using evidence based criteria to find this confident to task or this failure. way there's no BS. It's a simpler way to mitigate through management, through people who are up against stuff. Now I've given them closure, which is one of the number one things psychologically wise that we have found in our peer reviewed research. People need closure. And if we're not getting it because we're going home on our EPD day or our emergency personal day, whatever you're going to say, mental health day, whatever you want to call it, but what are we doing proactively to gain the strength for that employee to come back and do their job correctly? We haven't done it. We've
Absolutely
just pushed it
nothing.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've done
we've pushed
nothing.
it away.
We sent them home, and
Exactly.
basically the prescription is, grab a pint of Ben and Jerry's or whatever your emotional
Don't put
emotional thing
pistachio. I'm
is.
in.
Yeah, that. Or the other unhealthy way, which is maybe to drink more than you should, or any of the ways that you don't take care of yourself after enduring one of these types of calls, because they are a reality of our environment. It's
Where we work.
Tuesday, people. It's
Yeah,
Tuesday.
it's where we work. And those things that you're talking about now. So now we don't have confidence. We're dealing with stress the way everybody deals with stress, right? So now instead of creating points of success or points of learning, we're creating failure points. That failure points is the Ben and Jerry's. That failure point is the alcohol. That failure point is the failing relationship. Maybe
Mhm.
you are a shopper, and every time you feel better is to go online and go on Amazon and dump $350 that you don't have, but you're
Mm.
doing it because you're pissed off about your day. Well, that to me becomes unintelligent now, right? We're smarter than that. We should know to back off and reevaluate what we did, how we did it, make sure we're strong for the next time. We're resilient. That's resilience. That's where it lives. We're strong for the next time. And we're not using these excuses and these crutches. I mean, we have a real problem right now with the health of 911 telecommunications across this country. Everybody's big. I mean, everybody's big. We just ordered 5 and 6 XL sweatshirts. It's big. Okay. I'm not
Yeah.
perfect. I'm a fat guy at heart. I love it. Right. Give me all the food and the bad stuff, but we don't do the right things, and then we say, well, geez, I don't feel good. You just had Chinese food at 2:30 in the morning because that was the only restaurant open, and you just had 3 gallons of coffee, which is, don't get me wrong, I love coffee, but it's like if you go for a walk and maybe have a glass of water, you might feel a little better. And if you do it every day, start to build this skill, repetition builds skill, correct? You start to feel better, and you feel better and better and better. And you get to a point where you're not beat up by anything because
Mhm.
you're handling these challenges as they come in. And this is the bad day. Don't get me wrong. There's tragedy. There's, the crying child. There's all of that stuff. There's bad things that happen to us. And don't get me wrong. Crying and laughing, those are my two favorite emotions. So if you need to cry, call me. I'm gonna hang out with you for a while. If we keep using excuses, I don't know where we're going, right? I think we're getting to a point where the suicide rate has gotten so crazy. People's health, just physical and mental health, is secondary now. Although there is a kind of a big wave of this, things that I'm talking about is starting to kind of get a little hook in, and we're starting to move forward a little better with this stuff. But we have to have more instructors out there and more people out there talking about real health, not excuses and emergency days off, right? It just it just look at the nuts and bolts of that alone. Does it work or doesn't it?
No,
Mhm.
It doesn't work.
it doesn't.
So
No, it just
okay, if
it
that doesn't work,
perpetuates the problem.
just keeps it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep giving some pills out to make sure everybody's got a good pill. Everybody will be fine, and that's how it's going to go. And that's we've seen how this goes. You know what I mean? I was way over 308 pounds because that's how I did everything. I ate and drank all of my stress. Well, I don't do that
Wow.
anymore. I don't
Yeah.
do it. Right. And it's the hero's choice in this methodology of using honesty and ethics to build resilience is it's based on confidence, right? That word that I keep using. And if you have it, a different day, right? Think about something, anything that you're really good at. How did you get there? You did the work, you did the
Hmm.
learning, and now that you're there, come, it's like you guys are two, you've been doing this a couple of days, right? So there's
Just a
no
couple.
call or radio that's gonna, yeah, there's no radio call that's gonna say, got it, that threw me right off course, that call. That's not happening to you guys, right? Because you have the
No.
confidence in your skill to handle what's in front of you. You're one of you guys are the teachers in your department, right? You guys are the leaders, the example. So now they see that, they see this confidence that you've built. That's an amazing thing if you're giving that example out. But you're not worried about the day. You're worried about staffing and how am I going to put this fire out and how am I going to put this fire out and let's patch
Yeah.
4 channels together because we don't have enough people to watch these other 3 channels. That's the stuff you guys are
Yeah.
doing. Even in that moment where there is some noise, the volume has gone up, you're still confident in that task, right? You're still saying, okay, well, this is the fix, this is the band-aid for tonight, or for 4 hours, or whatever we're going to
Mhm.
try to do. I think somebody's coming in 4 hours. Okay, we'll patch that for 3 hours. Let's keep that together, and we'll wait the 4 hours when she comes in. She'll take over, and we'll split that back up the way it should be. You're confident in that. Why? Because you've been through it, right? You know what you need to do, and you're ready to do it, and you're not afraid of it. Say, okay, I need to make this decision. Well, now I make that decision based on that objective criteria, the things that you've screwed up in the past. Now you've learned from them and you don't do those again. It's a real simple thing, but it takes work to get there. And it's not, back to your first question, Erica, it's not a simple pill because you got to do the work to get there. How do you get healthy? You have to do the work. You have to put the fork down. You have to put it down. It's one of the hardest things for us to do, right? To say, okay, I just want to take off 10 more pounds. Somebody just brought an Italian bread with butter, and then somebody had spaghetti, and I think somebody brought cutlets. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You have your portion, and then you put the fork down. Although that day I might go in hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's Italian. That's basically dirty language to me, so I'm going in. But it's the next day I'm not, though. Right? And it's all just
Mhm.
based on this education of life.
So, okay. Now, I'm thinking because I'm really rolling this around in my head. So, a better way to do, I don't know, David comes in and he comes up to the control center, which is our supervisor area. Oh, I just took this horrible, horrible call. Um, David does have some anxiety. He does have some real stress because that does create those feelings. So we're
Sure.
not saying that it's
Those are
not
wrong
valid.
feelings. No, not at all. Those are real.
But maybe the way that I can help him is not to say, "Oh, you poor thing, go home and come back tomorrow and let's just do it again." But I give him nothing to help
Terrible.
him between the time he comes up and the time I see him the next day. Maybe, obviously, we're not clinicians and we're not professional counselors and so on
But
and
you
so
don't
forth.
have
But
to be.
maybe, okay, so maybe in the role that I do have, I can say, "Okay, David, let's talk about the call. Let's examine the areas that are safe to examine at this point, and let's get that part out of the way. And if at the end of the conversation, you still feel that you need to have this time, and we can get you whatever else you might need. But as supervisors right now, we don't we don't address anything else. We say, here's your band-aid. The band-aid is time off, and hopefully we'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow."
I mean, just think real nuts and bolts common sense. So no education. No, this is just life. You've had a problem. You've had a challenge. And now we're just going to push that aside and hide it? Or are we going to learn how to deal with it better the next time and move forward? So it just simply doesn't make common sense to me to say, go home, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me because I want to make sure that they know that they did a good job if they did a good job. I want to make sure that this learned supervisor, this example, confident example, is saying to me or saying to that person who's up against it right now that, hey, you followed your training, you followed the policies and procedures of this department. Thank you for that. I appreciate that because some people will start to go off course. You didn't. You stayed where you were supposed to stay. It's a really bad day, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. But this is where we work. Okay, so why don't you do something physically? If you can do me a favor and just do a couple laps around the parking lot, I appreciate that. Just get rid of some of this angst, especially before you drive home. If you still want to go home, that's what this system's built for. I want you to feel a little bit better before you get in that car and drive, all bent out of shape about not being able to deal with something. I want you to have that confidence. I'm going to start teaching healing and teaching strength right away, as opposed to, okay, just put that in the back burner. That's where post traumatic stress lives, right? So if you think of post traumatic stress as like a backpack, and you go through these incidents and you start to, each incident is a rock, and you throw it in that backpack, and you keep walking, and you keep going, you keep another incident, you keep throwing it in that backpack. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier until you can't deal with it anymore. And you have, like I have, that break where I hadn't dealt with so many things. Well, guess what happens? That rucksack brings you down, and now you can't deal with stuff. You have this breakdown. What if we just said, instead
Yeah.
of putting a rock in the back, we use these incidents as challenge and education and learning moments and living moments and being your mind and body together to heal stress. Now that backpack doesn't get filled up. It might get filled up with the, family member that passed away or something like that. That's different. But these daily
Yeah.
challenges, they don't go in the backpack anymore because you're dealing with them. It's just a growth time. And now you don't have that weight anymore. You don't have that built up, this hidden stress that you don't even know what happens, because your body's a funny thing. Whatever happens, it stays there. You got to do the work to make sure that you look at it, twist it around, and then get rid of it. Get the closure and move forward. Create new learning moments so you don't have that same incident again, especially if you made mistakes. Now you have
Yeah.
it's a different mindset, right? So if you're thinking just common sense wise, what I'm saying is that if you do the work to be strong, you will be strong, as opposed to go home, because now you're not doing any work to do anything. You're just saying, okay, put another rock in that rucksack. Well, I don't think that math works. So, and there's a, if I said to you, if I had 50 psychologists in a room, we were talking about this subject, and I'm talking about real psychiatrists who have been doing this for 100 years. No, they've forgotten more than I will ever know about this stuff. They could
Right.
agree with me or disagree. There's 50 different opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I go back to what's the crux? What's the pivot point of this stress? And to me, the pivot point of that stress is the confidence of the lack of it. Okay, it's the lack of it. And when you do have it, it's a different day. That's how I look at this stuff.
Wow. And here's the thing, I could listen for another couple of hours, but I know that we don't have that much time. So that just means you have to come back.
Okay, I love it. You guys are great. I mean, it's you're teaching and trying to promote the same things, that we're on the same page. Like, why am I just
Yeah,
beating up on this new employee? I haven't given them any skills yet, and yet I'm going to beat on them. Okay, well, CTO, get your head out of your butt. Teach them before you beat on them. Let them be.
absolutely.
Let's teach confidence before tasks, and then teach the tasks. So some of this stuff is to me is it's real simple common math. If it's complicated, I'm not going to be able to figure out. I mean, my wife is standing in the room with me right now. Said, "Yeah, Ted's an idiot." But it's like, to me, I just look at a problem. I say, "Okay, what's the fix? Not what's the band-aid. What's the fix?" It's different because now you look at human resources. You look at all of these other things that the noise of our industry is telling us to do some other things differently, but that doesn't help me fix that employee that's standing right in front of me.
And it doesn't address, and well, and what we do is we slap a label on it. We call it stress, and then we add another label, which is the excuse because of the stress, which allows
Amen.
them to behave badly all the time. And then the
Yep.
supervisor is stressed and no one's
Exactly.
dealing with it. No one's dealing with this stress. No one's calling it what it is or presenting a different way to look at it. And so we're just like hamsters on a wheel. We just keep going round and round and
That's
round.
all it is, and it just gets worse and worse, and the pile gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Nobody's shoveling to find that answer. Come on, we're smarter people
let
than that,
alone, yeah.
you know?
Well, and you
The
say it
great
all
thing
the
about
time, and I love it. We're problem solvers on an elite level, but this one sticks us. This one
it
sticks
does,
us all the
it
time,
does.
and nobody knows how to deal with stress or how to look at it. And we take these classes that talk about stress, and we all walk out of them. And I don't know about you guys, but I've taken them, and I walk out going, I don't feel any different. I don't have anything
Right.
in my toolkit to truly address
Yeah.
it other than maybe mental health, and not a thing in the world wrong with mental health intervention or any of those things, but we're
No,
talking
it's
on
not.
on a practical level. What can we do in our
Right.
centers without a bunch of letters in front or behind our names? What can we do? And this is helpful to me. It's given me a different perspective on maybe how to handle the employee with the bad call next time, instead of just here's a workman's comp document, off you go for the day.
We're this is such an amazing industry, and the people in it are so incredible, caring, the empathy that people think they don't have, which they really do, you know. But we're also kind of full of crap, right? So we don't look in the mirror directly to say,
Ed?
is it me? Is it this? What is the problem? Why am I going down this direction? I think in our classes at AAP, if we can get them to look in the mirror and say, let's drop the labels and the BS and say, what's the real issue here? If we can get them to leave the classroom after 8 hours and say, hey, that's different. I'm going to look at this differently. And what happens when you do that? You open your mind up to innovation, to learning, to building a bridge to somebody. Because now in our classes we drop the labels on everything. I don't care where you're from; it doesn't matter to me. And we're going to build a bridge, and we're going to work towards getting stronger. That's all that we work for in our classes. We're looking to have an impact. We try to have a lot of fun, but we're trying to have an impact on your learning process. That's why we talk about core values and mission statements and drop the labels. And don't make excuses, make solutions. Okay, every time you're about to make an excuse, what's the fix for this excuse? If you keep doing that all the time, the excuses go away. And now we're just looking at challenges and solutions to those challenges, because that's who we are at our core. Just like you said, we're problem solvers at an elite level. Let's solve the ones for mental health. Let's solve the ones for caring for each other at work. That's real peer support. It's not BS. That's real peer support. Just say, hey, go for a walk. Hey, I'm going to take a walk with you on my break. Let's get rid of this. And we'll go
Yeah,
back and let's break down this call and get stronger at this call.
nice. I love it. So that means that the next time you come through, we're going to touch on another topic that is near and dear to both our hearts, which is 911 Strong, which is it's a whole other
Absolutely.
podcast by itself. But if anybody is interested in what that means, hop on over to aap.com, American Emergency Preparedness, and you can watch a couple of the clips that the staff have put together on what 911 Strong is. And
Yeah,
it's
we
more
believe
than
it.
just a yeah, it's more than just something that was, brought up, and it's not a catchphrase, it actually means something.
I enjoy this process because your listeners get to hear a different perspective, and that's really what we're losing nowadays. Is that we're all locked into knowledge that we already have, and we're living our lives based on that. There's so much more out there to see if you just open your eyes and open your ears.
Absolutely. And the hero's choice is absolutely, I think it's imperative if you're able to get your center to, um, come out of pocket a little bit for the class. I think it'll do your centers a world of good. I can vouch for it. It's
I agree.
amazing, and it's not just yeah, it's not just because I have an affiliation with AAP, but I wouldn't if I didn't believe 1000% in the products that we put out. And it's
Exactly.
real stuff. It's not the cookie cutter type stuff that you encounter most of the time in class environments. And we all know what those are. Nothing wrong with the big four-letter agencies and that are around,
Not at
but
all.
there's something
Not
to
at
be
all.
said about common sense, and I love a good common sense class.
That's what we try to do for sure. That's what we try to do for sure.
Well, Ted, thank you so much
Awesome.
for joining us. And I've personally found a lot of your insights very informative. So thank you for sharing those with me. And we hope everyone out there listening also found it informative as well. Again, Ted's class is The Hero's Choice with AEP. If you're interested in trying to get in on that. And Ted, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.